All right. I believe we are live. What is going on, everybody? This is Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another episode, a Saturday episode. My apologies, although it wasn't my fault this time. The Xbox 2 podcast with my co-host, playing Mass Effect right now, scanning planets, loving life. My buddy, Jez Corden of Windows Central. How's it going, man?
Hey, pal. Yeah, sorry to everyone for skipping yesterday's show, but my sleep cycle's a bit screwed up. And if we did the show yesterday, I would have been half asleep through the whole show. So I've actually slept up, and we can have a maximum energy discussion here on a sunny Saturday. Although I might close the window because it's bloody freezing right now. Is it cold there, Rand, in Chicago?
No, we actually have the air conditioning on right now. Because it's starting to climb up into the 90s. There's getting a little bit high 80s, so it's time for the air conditioning because it gets hot out.
What is it here? Let me just look it up. It is 48 Fahrenheit in Britain. Well, where I am right now, which is pretty chilly.
48. Wait, 40. You said 48 degrees Fahrenheit?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is on the colder end of things.
It's pretty chilly to have the window open anyway. But I digress. I can't believe we're talking about the weather.
I know, right? I mean, we could talk about Pokemon and how all those men in their 30s and 40s were trampling each other to get the last of the packs at whatever store that was that people were sending me.
Yeah, so like for those listening, if you don't know, there's a viral video on Twitter, and you should go and check it out. Of I don't know what store it is, but is it like a Target or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so like all Walmart and Target have announced that they're gonna stop stocking Pokemon cards because all these adult dudes are fighting over the cards in store, and there's like a stampede to get the last supplies of cards before they get banned. What timeline is this, Rand? What timeline is this?
The greatest timeline where Pokemon is just doesn't exist. It's the best timeline. The very, very best.
Oh man! I know deep down you enjoyed your time with Pokemon Sword and Shield.
No, I hated literally I hated my life. I hated my life. Hey, I have okay. I have a confession to make.
Oh.
About Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Go on.
You might hate me for this.
Okay, let's hear it.
So about halfway through the game, Gaming Addict, Lord Addict, you know your buddy, our buddy, friend of the show, he gave me like level 99 Pokemon to beat the game with, so I could just beat everything super quick.
Cheated?
No.
Oh my God!
He gave me like a level 99 Charizard and a whole bunch of like level 70 Pokemon. And he's just like, here, just you'll just one shot everything. And I was like, thank you. So yeah.
I don't even know who you are anymore.
Yeah.
And Addict is that like this. Me and Addict have beef now. Tell you that much.
I've been holding that for me for a while.
Oh my God. Well,
I'm sorry, Jez. I couldn't live with myself any longer. I had to tell you the truth.
Well, that's something new to discuss with my therapist next week.
Yeah.
But,
But other than that, how's been the week? I see you put out a very interesting article. Xbox about to be playing dirty.
Yeah, Xbox playing dirty.
A lot of people, I saw quote retweeted it and retweeted it, and it was getting some traction. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But what made you want to write that article in the first place? I was kind of interested about that.
We talked about it on the show last week, I think, briefly. Like touched upon the fact that back in the day, and Microsoft was like, sort of apologizing for the whole Rise of the Tomb Raider thing in interviews, and then they're just like, you know what, screw it, we'll buy Bethesda, and now, Outriders is $0, and it just feels like there's more, fight in them lately. So I just wanted to celebrate that a bit, Just wanted to celebrate it.
That's good. That's good. Hey, Aquaman wants to know what defines a hardcore and a casual gamer. Because people throw out those terms a lot. So
That is
in your opinion,
debate for the ages.
Yeah, what is hardcore and what is casual? I mean, you could have someone who just plays Call of Duty 24/7, and that's the only game he plays. Would you describe that person as a hardcore gamer or a casual gamer? I mean, he's definitely a hardcore Call of Duty player.
It's so weird when you think about it, because a Fortnite esports player who only plays Fortnite, training Fortnite all the time, that's pretty hardcore, right? But then he doesn't play any other games. So it's like, it's kind of, it's one of those discussions which those terms are so fluid. Like, I remember back in the day in World of Warcraft, there was on the forums, the Blizzard forums, there was always these arguments like, oh, stop catering to the casuals and stuff like this. Because like there was the argument that they were making the game easier to try and appease to a wider subset of players. But I honestly don't know, man. I don't know if there's a definable way to define what a hardcore gamer is and what a non-hardcore gamer is. I think I would probably I would define it as someone who actually invests in the hobby, and they actually consider it to be like one of their top hobbies. Like, not necessarily spending too much time with it, because some people might just not have the time. But if they're invested in it and they're reading about it and they're excited for upcoming games, that's someone who I would consider to be a core gamer, Maybe not necessarily hardcore, but at least core gamer. Casual gamer is someone who plays Candy Crush on the bus or something.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Anybody listening to this podcast, don't worry, you're a hardcore gamer.
Yeah, everyone. This is a podcast for hardcore gamers, such as ourselves.
There's no casuals up in this podcast.
There's no casual.
Yeah,
no,
dirty casuals.
There's no Barbie's horse riding game play here, right?
There's no people that are gonna play Peppa the Pig for 1,000 gamer score here, right?
Was that, first of all, I didn't know there was a Peppa the Pig video game. Second of all, did you play Peppa the Pig?
No, it's not out yet. I got tagged in it, and people were like, "You're gonna play this?" And be like, if I was still in the gamer score, 100% I would, but not anymore.
Is there for Xbox? Is a Peppa the Pig game coming out?
Yeah, I think it's coming out for all the platforms. Yeah.
What kind of game is it?
I don't know. I don't know.
I am intrigued. Is it my mind's wandering now to a Peppa the Pig first person shooter where you blast enemy pigs into bacon and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's funny.
I saw a hilarious news report of parents who are mad that Peppa the Pig is giving their little kids a British accent in America and stuff, which I think is hilarious. Cultural, what do you call it? Invasion through the BBC. But I digress. I don't know. We've got a lot of hardcore Peppa players in chat right now, right?
It seems like it, yeah. RDX Son of Fett says, The Wild at Heart is way better than Pikmin. The Wild at Heart did just release on Game Pass. I don't know if you've checked it out, Jez. I've been busy playing Mass Effect. I don't know.
Is that the game you were crazy about on Apple Arcade or something?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever mentioned it.
I'm getting it mixed up with something else.
I have seen the game. I guess it's sort of like Pikmin, and the art style really is nice. It's just I don't know if it's a game for me. And like I said, I'm just knee deep in Mass Effect right now. Thank you, Genebox, for the super chat. I appreciate it. No message. And Georgie says, not playing dirty when Sony has another Final Fantasy exclusive. That is the rumor, is that they have another Final Fantasy game. That is not Final Fantasy VII Remake 2. That is not Final Fantasy 16. That is not Forspoken, but yet another Final Fantasy exclusive that might get revealed at Square Enix's show, which leads, which is why Xbox has to play dirty, like Jess says in the articles, because Sony's basically saying to everybody, if you like Final Fantasy, the only platform to play it on is PlayStation. And they're trying. they're doing a good job of that, by basically money handing it and locking it down for X amount of years, So Xbox has to fight back. That's why they bought Bethesda. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the Starfield stuff later, about why it's going to be exclusive and why nobody should be surprised, because me and Jez have been saying that since day one back in September. It's just, this gen's all going to be about content and who's got the content and where the content's played at, and it's going to be content war. And I think you guys realize that at this point, And Square Enix, they're playing both sides well. They're taking a lot of money from Sony to make Final Fantasy exclusives, and then they're taking money from Xbox to put stuff on Game Pass. Importing games that never would come to Game Pass or Xbox in the first place. So they're playing both sides of the fence pretty good. Tom Legs.
Square Enix are playing dirty, man. They have the dirtiest of all of them.
Yeah, Tom Legg says Peppa the Pig will have 120 FPS too. Heck yeah, of course it will.
I'm gonna look up this game. I want to know more.
It'll have 120 frames on the Xbox, and it'll be 60 frames on the PS5. And the PlayStation dudes will attack the developers on Twitter about it.
Oh my god.
Whittier says, any questions you don't want asked today? I mean, you can ask any question you want. If we don't want to answer it, we won't answer it. That's just how it is. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in on this Saturday. Sorry that we, once again... I don't know, I think you guys know by now this podcast is either Friday or Saturday. It just really depends on, if I can do the show or if Jez can do the show. And if it's not one day, it's definitely the other day. So, I mean...
Fridays can be really busy for me sometimes. And I know there's going to be disruption next month because of E3.
Yeah, well,
already it's starting to ramp up.
I already know the week of because I'm finally getting a lot of stuff done where my studio is. I'm getting the floors replaced, and they're going to be here Wednesday and Thursday. It's a 2-day job, but they might still be here on the 4th, which is a Friday. So that week, I'm already telling you guys, so that's 2 weeks from now. The show more than likely will probably be on that Saturday in case they're still here. Because, I'm getting the floor replaced where I do all my videos. I bought a new chair. I'm buying a bigger desk. I'm getting a whole bunch of new stuff. But yeah, so that show may be on the Saturday. It depends on if they're gone by Friday, because I got a whole bunch of stuff coming. So, yeah. But yeah,
dude, sorry, go on.
Ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just watched this Peppa the Pig video game trailer, right? It doesn't show any gameplay. It's terrible.
No gameplay.
It's just Peppa the Pig CGI, man. It's just what is this? No gameplay. But there are some gameplay details. You'll be able to customize your own animal avatar to play along Peppa across a variety of locations from the TV show, such as the beach, the chilly, snowy mountains, Peppa's house, and the Potato City theme park. You'll be able to interact with George, Daddy, Mummy Pig, and several of Peppa's friends.
That sounds absolutely amazing.
I might review this.
Jesus.
I might review this. It's called My Friend Peppa Pig, and it's probably 2021 Game of the Year contender, I would say.
Probably. But I want to give a shout out to some of the people here. I see in chat we got Star-Lord 794, Sleepy Goblin 2D, Scott McGee, Pong Soul, Letha Papa, Gunstar, always here, Eddie the Psycho, Beer Baron, Ice Queen Gaming, Lord Henry, Marky Kelly. Thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. Saji, Caesar, You're Fake, a whole bunch of people in chat. Thank you guys. We appreciate everybody's support. What do you want to talk about first, Jez? Because I think me and you probably been playing the same thing.
Yes. We've both been playing Mass Effect all week. Yeah, I think.
Yes.
I haven't. I played the Ascent, which I suppose is quite special. I can talk about that.
So yeah, the Ascent is coming out on July 29th. Yes. Day one Game Pass on both the console and PC, releasing also, I believe, on Steam at the same time. And that's one of these games that, was in the May showing last year, for Xbox, and everybody was wondering when it's coming. Now we know it'll be here in 2 months. You've played it.
Yes, I have.
What do you think about it?
It's bloody awesome. Like, it was... The thing about the Ascent is kind of like... When I first saw those first trailers, I was sort of like... My skepticism alarm was going off because it just looks so good. Like, the backgrounds look so detailed. It kind of reminded me of those, like, initial Watch Dogs trailers that was super photorealistic, had amazing lighting and reflections and all that sort of stuff. And I kind of had this mentality was... This is going to be downgraded, you know, before launch, you know. But no, like that, how it is in the trailers is how it looks in game, and I was like, it's one of the best looking games I've ever played. Like the lighting is just out of this world, and I don't know if like it's the fixed camera angle lets them, I don't know, get more performance out of like some of the details or something like that. Like they don't have to do a fully 3D environment. I don't know game dev stuff. But it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful game. The backgrounds are so detailed, and even though it's like a fixed camera angle, gives the environment so much depth. Like you can look far off into the background and see like spaceships flying around and like cyberpunk kind of cars and vehicles, and there's so many different aliens wandering around in the social hubs and stuff like that. I really couldn't believe, like, considering this is supposedly a small team working on this, how much, I don't know, life they breathed into this game. I was just shocked. But the visuals are only one part of the story. It plays really well as well. It's like, it's not like Diablo. Like, it looks like Diablo, but it doesn't play like Diablo. It does feel like a twin stick shooter quite a bit. You got like cover mechanics, and you need to use the cover mechanics because you will die if you don't use the cover mechanics. And I didn't discover it had the cover mechanics until quite near the end of the demo. So I was like playing it on hard mode, by self-imposed hard mode for a while. There's dodge rolling and stuff like that, and you know, playing tactically with your cooldowns and your abilities and reloading and grenades and stuff like that is... I don't know if they're still working on the tuning, but I was the only game journalist in my session that actually finished the demo. So the others gave up. So,
I mean, that's not really surprising because people were writing reviews about Returnal who hadn't beaten the game yet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I suppose, but you know, it is what it is. Maybe they didn't have enough time or something. I don't know, but it was tough, man. I died. There's like, in the demo I played, we got to play like 2 levels or 2 missions, and there was one boss that was against this like mutant gorilla thing. That was quite tough, but I didn't die on that one. And then the second boss fight, it was against like a swarm of ads, and then 2 gorilla type things with hammers that sent shockwaves all across the room with amazing particle effects, 3D projected ground textures that were also affected by the lighting. Like it just looked like I was playing like in CGI. Like it just looks so good. But this fight was just really hard, and I died like many times trying to do this fight. But that's exactly like the kind of game it is. You have to sort of think ahead where the enemies are going to move, make sure you're using cover very well, and make sure you strafing around, picking up the health pickups as you go. It's almost like a top-down Doom, almost, the way it plays in a way. Switching weapons as appropriate and stuff like that. You know, it's really frantic. I don't know if they're gonna tune it, and I don't know if the full game will have difficulty levels and stuff like that. But when I was playing it, it was like it's super frantic, but it's also super satisfying. You know, you got like all these cyberpunk abilities. Like I had like this power fist thing where you could punch and you blow up like a ton of enemies in front of you and stuff. I had a shotgun, assault rifles, and there's going to be all sorts of.
And it's 4-player co-op as well, right?
Yeah, 4-player local and online co-op.
That's it.
So
that's pretty damn cool, and it's not even that expensive. I saw Violet Femme says for how much, $70? No, it's actually only $29.99, I believe.
Yeah,
or if you have Game Pass, it's day one.
it's wild that it's $20 because it's not like an RPG in the sense Diablo's an RPG. It's an RPG in the sense like a real RPG, you know, like a role-playing game, not like an action RPG where it's about loot. I mean, you do get loot in the game, but it's about talking to NPCs and, you know, dialogue trees and, you know, learning about the world you're in and stuff like that. And I know Diablo does like have some of that stuff in it, but there's like proper full-blown cutscenes in the game, and there's loads of characters in the game, and, you know, there's vendors in the game, and you explore the city in the game and the side missions. And they told me that like an average playthrough in their testing is about 20 hours, and they were saying like if someone wants to go through and do all the side missions and be a completionist about it, then they're going to be looking at more than 20 hours. So I'm like, I would buy this for $60. I think they've like they kind of might have screwed up the price a little bit there, but I think like I've paid $60 for games that feel less than this.
Right. And people in chat are saying that this is a dev team of only 12.
Yeah, so there's 12 people on the core team, but they are working with contractors as well. There's more than 12 people who contribute to the game, put it that way. But the core team, Neon Giant, who are leading the direction of the game, they're a team of 12 people. They're industry veterans from across the industry, and you know, you can tell they'd have to be industry veterans because the game is just
it looks stunning. I've seen the trailers. It looks really good. I think it's 4K 60 on the Series X. I love the fact that almost every single game I play on these next-gen consoles is 60 frames. Can we give it up in chat for 60 frames? And we finally have left behind filmic 30. Even Jez himself is like, I can't do 30. You told me you can't do 30 frames anymore, Jez. It's over.
I can't.
It's all 60. Once you get that taste of 60, you can't go back to that 30. I love it. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you know, this gen hasn't really started going yet. Microsoft hasn't really released any exclusives. You know, Sony's released a handful, some of them being cross-gen. But the thing that I love so far the most about this generation is that basically everything is 60 frame standard. Like everything. Like even Watch Dogs Legion is getting a patch here soon for 60 frames. You know, you play Mass Effect, 60 frames. Resident Evil, 60 frames with ray tracing. Returnal, 60 frames. Everything is 60 frames, and it's absolutely wonderful. And then sometimes you even get games that are 120 frames. You know, Mass Effect. I have played Mass Effect Legendary Edition, 120 and 60, because the option there exists to play at 120 frames. I love the frame rate. I love the fact that the focus so far this gen is just on making these games play as good as they can. Like, so that's why so far, even though like, yeah, Microsoft hasn't really been, you know, putting out a ton of exclusives yet. Like, I love the fact that the hardware is 60 frames, man. It's getting rid of that 30 frame stuff, so I don't have to hear, but Rand, I want it to be 4K 30 and having all. It's like, shut up. Like, I remember people telling me like, hey, I was playing Spider-Man Miles Morales at 4K 30 with ray tracing, and it's like, why would you not play that at 60? Like, I think it actually looks better at 60 frames, even if the resolution is 1440p, simply because of you get double of the visual information. I don't know, man. Like, and I'm just glad we've moved away from that, because there was that constant discussion about you know, like wanting the games to be cinematic and 30 frames and stuff. Like, screw that. Give me 60 frames all day. Like, I cannot go back to 30 frames. I don't know if it's like this for anybody else.
No, like, you know how much I love Monster Hunter, right? Mm-hmm. Like, the Xbox Series, because Monster Hunter has an unlocked frame rate on the One X version. On the Series X, Monster Hunter hits like, you know, 60 frames per second generally, in 4K, you know, and coming from 30 frames per second Monster Hunter is like, you know, it's a combat heavy game, you know, with a lot of, you know, frame reading and stuff like that. It was just a dream. So when I tried playing Monster Hunter Rise demo on Nintendo Switch at a blistering 25 to 28 frames per second, I just couldn't do it, man. I just like, man, I've experienced Monster Hunter at 60 frames now. I can't go back. I can't go back to this. So I'm just gonna, if Monster Hunter Rise doesn't come to Xbox or PC, I'm probably just not gonna play it because I just can't stand playing Monster Hunter.
Now you understand why a lot of the PC guys be like, I can't play 30 frames. You know?
Yeah, I'm used to it now.
Yeah.
Like those old school Monster Hunter games on the Nintendo DS were like even less frames, like 15 frames a second. Oh man!
Give me all the frames. Give me all the frames. Beaner8127 says, if you guys were possums, y'all would be awesome possums. Interesting. Hannah Lay says, hi from the UK. Do you both think Microsoft will do Xbox Game Pass just for under 18s? After my son asking for Bound Wonderworld, I finally caved in.
That's interesting.
It's an interesting question, but I think Microsoft will leave that up to the parents. The Xbox has very strong and robust parental controls that the parents can set up and all that stuff. So I don't think we would ever see a Game Pass that's strictly, under a certain age. They're just going to rely on parents to set the, controls for their kids' accounts, being like, you can't access, anything over teen or whatever, right? I think that's how they'll do it, Jez. I can't imagine them having another tier of Game Pass specifically for young kids. Although maybe I'm wrong on that.
It could be a good way to target parents from a branding perspective. Like if because you've got YouTube Kids and Netflix Kids, you just know when you turn on YouTube Kids that all, well, supposedly, supposedly you don't get any, adult or inappropriate content on YouTube Kids when you stick it in YouTube Kids mode. So maybe that is something that parents expect to have, is like a YouTube Kids, Netflix Kids, whatever. Game Pass Kids kind of makes sense from a branding perspective, but at the same time, it's kind of like, I do think Xbox in general needs more content for younger audiences. Maybe.
Phil's directly said that. That's an area they're lacking in, and maybe they buy some studios or make some deals with some teams to try to get more, E for everyone type of content. Microsoft has a perfect kid-friendly franchise waiting in the wings that they own. They own Viva Pinata. Yeah. It could have been their Pokemon. Blinks. They own Banjo.
Blinks.
Blinks? Screw Blinks. Nobody cares about Blinks. I'm just saying, Microsoft has IPs in their catalog that could target younger users. So,
like Gears of War.
Yeah, like Gears of War, yeah. Babyhand says, Jez, tell us something that you have not said that we might want to know. Games or interesting tidbits from the industry that's not well known.
That's a broad question.
It is very broad.
That is broad. I'm not really sitting on any, well, a little bit maybe. I'm not really sitting on any info that I can share right now. But leave that with me. I'll have a think, and maybe we'll come back to it. But I honestly don't know off the top of my head. That's an interesting question.
Yeah. So Mass Effect. I want to talk about this because last time, during last podcast, we had talked about Resident Evil because I was playing it. I finally finished Resident Evil Village. It's my favorite game of the year so far. Well, favorite new game because I am enjoying the absolute living hell out of Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I beat Resident Evil now twice, Jez. I did my first playthrough, 10 hours, 30 minutes. I did feel like the first 3/4 of the game were way stronger than the last quarter. I felt like the last quarter kind of dragged it down a little bit, and maybe I still think it's my favorite game of the year, but like I don't want to spoil anything, but just like the last quarter of the game isn't as strong as the beginning, and that kind of drags it down a little bit. But then I went and I did a knives only playthrough, Jez, on casual. I only used the knife. Didn't heal.
That is wild to me.
It's easy though. It's so easy. Like if you play it on casual,
on casual.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're not going to be able to do that on normal or especially like any like hardcore Village of Shadows.
Why not?
Because on casual, your health regenerates to a certain point.
I guess you're just casual gamer, man.
Yeah, I know, right? Only using the knife. You buy the better knife. So basically, I beat the game on the second playthrough in like 2 hours. So it was fun. But I started Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I beat Mass Effect 1, which is greatly improved over the original 2007 edition. Looks a lot better. Lighting's better. Character models are better. Textures are better. Most importantly, it does play a lot better than the original version. Like, combat is improved to the point where it's not as clunky to move around and actually engage enemies. However, the Mako still sucks. Like
the Mako's a lot better though.
The Mako is still garbage in this game. Like because the planets are trash. How like trying to climb up those mountains with the Mako and stuff, still awful. Right?
I like it. I like it.
It's horrible.
Yeah, as I was playing that and I was doing those Mass Effect 1 side missions, everyone's idol Guru in chat just says, Jez, I've been Prey 3 times, notice me senpai. I notice you. But yeah, when I was doing those side missions in Mass Effect 1 with the Mako, I was sitting there thinking, man, I love this. I love exploring uncharted world and feeling lonely and stuff like that. And then like as I was thinking that, I was realizing, man, I'm pretty sure I criticized Mass Effect Andromeda for having empty open world areas. But I'm like nostalgic about Mass Effect 1's empty open world areas. It kind of reminded me of Elite Dangerous. Like I don't know how much you played Elite Dangerous, if at all. But like in Elite Dangerous, you can buy a rover and then you can pilot it around like landscapes and stuff like that and analyze rocks and things like this. It kind of gave me that sort of feeling. Like there's something almost therapeutic about it, you know? But I'm like thoroughly aware that that's not for everyone. You know what I mean? Oh man. But man, that game is just so special. Like I love everything about it. Like, and the fact that they fixed up the combat, they made like all the gunplay feel better, the hit markers, the headshots, and you know, and also the fact that Singularity doesn't tank the frame rate anymore when you use it. I don't know if you play an Adept much, but
no, I usually play as a first time through. I usually play as a soldier, and then I'll play as a different class the second time. But solid frame rate the whole way through, 60 frames. But it's really hard for me to tell anymore because I have variable refresh rate, and that smooths out any dips. So while before I had the CX, I could tell a game was dropping frames. Sometimes it can be pretty difficult now because the VRR kind of smooths that all out. But here's the thing though, Jez. Like I played Mass Effect 1 like 4 times back in the day. And even though I bought this Legendary Edition, I was like, am I really going to play through it? And I was like, let me just start this up, right? And I started it up, and I was just, I felt like I was home. Because, like, it just brought me back to, 12 years ago. You know, times were a little bit different. Gaming was a little bit different. I mean, go back to 2007 and think of the type of games that companies were making during the early 360 PS3 era versus the type of games they make now. And I will say, after playing Mass Effect 1, and I'm like 10 hours or 15 hours into Mass Effect 2, which, by the way, is significantly, like, you go through all of Mass Effect 1, and then you immediately play Mass Effect 2 right after it, back to back. It is insane how much better Mass Effect 2 plays than Mass Effect 1. Even with the improvements Mass Effect 1 has, Mass Effect 2 is just on a different level. Just reaffirming its place in my mind that Mass Effect 2 is the best Mass Effect game, and it's one of the GOATs in video game history. But what I really wanted to say is they don't make games like this anymore, man. They don't make games like Mass Effect anymore. Like, I feel like going back and revisiting these games from what is now 2 generations ago, which is ridiculous, right? It's a 360 game. I feel like this type of game has just been completely eliminated in the video game industry. Everything that is super popular is a live service game. Your Fortnites, your Call of Duties, all that stuff. We know about that. But then even like your really other popular games that are heavily cinematic are all open world experiences, like Ubisoft style. Nobody makes these RPGs with a heavy emphasis on characters and like I don't know, like maybe I'm being off here. Maybe people in the chat have a different viewpoint on it, but like playing this game brings me back to a better time, or at least I don't even know if I want to say better, but just a different era of gaming where maybe I wasn't.
It was better. It was better.
It was better.
Really
you think?
Was. I really do think that it was better, and I feel the same way when I'm playing Mass Effect 2 right now. I'm just sitting there thinking, you're right. You're completely right. They just don't make games like this anymore, where you have choices that actually matter, because they use telemetry to be like, oh, and they did interviews where they were like, oh, only like 20% of people played a Renegade. So like, if you're EA, your thought process there is, we made content that 70% of our gamers didn't even see. But the thing is, it was your content. It was your choices you made. And it gave everything you did extra weight. And it gave you like a stronger connection to the characters and the world. And it's just, they just don't make games like this anymore. And I can understand that perspective that, you know, when they make a branching narrative and you miss content because of it, that it sort of, you know, from a cost perspective, and a cost saving perspective, it probably doesn't make any sense. But you lose the soul when you do that, you know. And I do feel like there are opportunities for these kind of games to come back, because we've seen The Outer Worlds is blatantly heavily inspired by Mass Effect,
and
like,
we
when
will
you play
be
The Outer
getting
Worlds,
we
you can
will be
tell.
getting an Outer Worlds 2. They were talking about that during 2K's financials, where Private Division confirmed that was there some sort of because it seemed like Take-Two was like expecting they were publishing some future Outer Worlds games, and then a day later Private Division's like, now Microsoft controls the future publishing rights. Like, what went on there with the Outer Worlds, Jez?
I think they just like forgot something like that. I don't know. That was weird, but you know, and people in chat are saying like, you know, Wasteland 3, and like they're you're completely right. Like there are games out there that have branching narratives that are very good, like Wasteland 3. Larian Studios are making some good ones, like Divinity Original Sin, and you know, there's Disco Elysium and stuff like that. But they're all top-down RPGs. The sort of like the branching narrative on this sort of like action RPG AAA sort of level, and not to say that Wasteland isn't AAA, but it's I don't know what it is. They just don't want to do that anymore for these kind of games. I don't know why. And especially like Mass Effect. Mass Effect has this unprecedented thing where you can carry your decisions from game to game to game, and the only other game that really does that well is Dragon Age, another BioWare game, which they also don't make anymore. So there is something just magical about Mass Effect, and it is because those choices you make bring you closer to the world. And when I was playing it and thinking about it, Rand, I was just sort of thinking like, it's not enough for me for a game to just be fun. You know, a game, like, if it's fun, then it's fun, great. But the difference between thinking a game is fun and loving a game is in that sort of immersion and feeling connected to the characters and feeling connected to the world and stuff like that. And there just aren't many games that really do that as well as BioWare did back in the day. There just aren't, you know. So, yeah, it's sort of bittersweet playing them back, because you just, you know, like people in chat saying, BioWare have been gutted. Like a lot of the people who worked on Mass Effect and shaped it and made it what it is, they've moved on now. EA gutted the studio, you know, and messed it up and wasted what Mass Effect could have been. And you know, It's almost bittersweet to think that we probably won't get a Mass Effect on this level anymore.
Well, we'll have to wait and see what the next. I mean, they did promise to bring it back. They revealed the new trailer at E3. It seems like it actually might be a continuation of the original trilogy. So we'll see how that plays out. But I just wanted to shout out Lenny Washington, who says, "Hey Rand, I can't afford a super chat, but I hit the like button. I love your guys' show. Great news I get from the show. If you can shout me out one time, I will really appreciate it. Thank you." So, yeah, I mean, shout out to you, Lenny. We appreciate anybody who just watches. You don't necessarily have to support the show with a super chat, although it is greatly appreciated. Channel memberships, all that stuff helps support the channel, and we'll always read off any of the questions and stuff. But honestly, just everybody being here on a Saturday or Friday, just chatting, if you're just lurking, listening, hitting the like button, that's all that really matters. So shout out to you, Lenny, as well as everybody else in the chat who's just having a good time. We really appreciate you. Elliot says, Jez and Rand, muted 19. Thanks for being great. Do you guys think we'll see a surprise at E3 about Uwu coming to Game Pass day one? Man, if Microsoft had exclusive Uwu, Jez, would they dominate?
They would dominate, man. They would absolutely dominate.
Scott McGee says, either of you checking out BIomutant? I am not going to check out BIomutant, at least not right away. Maybe down the road. But we'll definitely be talking about BIomutant a little bit later on. And
Yep, indeed.
Brad says, hey guys, off topic, but played the original Psychonauts yesterday, and the game looks like it has been upscaled. Did I miss it getting a res boost? Jez, did it get a resolution boost like some of the other games, or is I think all the Xbox games like the OG Xbox games naturally got a resolution boost? Wasn't that the case?
I'm honestly not sure.
Because I think when they did it, and people can correct me in the chat, there were certain 360 games that got boosted to 4K, right, using the Hochi method. But I think any of the original Xbox games that were back compat automatically got some of that resolution improvements. I mean, I could be wrong, but I vaguely recall that being a thing. I'm sure somebody in chat will either tell me I'm right or wrong. And Kendrick Starr says for Lenny, and Scott McGee says here's for Lenny. Appreciate everybody, for being here. You guys are amazing. Yeah, Jez, like right now I'm watching the Mako make its approach to the summit in Novaria, right? And see, Sam Tolbert says all OG Xbox games got a res boost. That's what I thought it was. It was all the OG Xbox games. But yeah, I just love Mass Effect. It's just bringing back some great memories playing through the series again. Can't wait to finish up 2 and then get to 3 because I only played 3 one time. And so that's going to seem really fresh. Like even with 2, I played 2 twice, but obviously 2 was in 2010, so it's been 11 years, so some of the stuff I don't remember as vividly as I do Mass Effect 1 because I played that 5 different times. It's just, I don't know, it's just that nostalgia, man. I guess I'm just getting nostalgic for playing this and then remembering some of the other great games during the 360 era where I'm just looking back being man, gaming has changed and evolved in a way since Mass Effect has come out. The era where you would get a sequel to game, you would get 3 games in a franchise within one generation. You're lucky now to get one. You go back to 360 and you get Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, Dead Space 1, 2, and 3, BioShock 1, 2, and 3, a bunch of Halo games, a bunch of, you would get multiple entries into a franchises. And, now it's you're lucky to just get a single game during an entire gen. Because it's just gaming's evolved. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. But if you're Grand Theft Auto, you can get 3 games.
Which, by the way,
3 games that are the same in across 3 gens.
By the way, Grand Theft Auto, Rockstar confirmed that the new game is coming, or the new game. They are re-releasing Grand Theft Auto 5 for Series X and PS5 on November 11th. And I am ashamed to admit that I will probably buy that game and replay the campaign because I only played it once on the 360, and this version is going to have 60 frames, and I kind of want to replay the GTA 5 campaign in 60 frames.
Hmm.
So, yeah. I I'm sorry. I'll be one of those people that end up buying. I'll be a number next to what Grand Theft Auto's sold 400 million copies or whatever it is they announced, right? I'll be one of those people buying Grand Theft
You
Auto 5 full price at $60 simply so I can play it at 60 frames. I'm ashamed of myself, but it is.
you are the reason that we don't get games like Mass
No,
Effect anymore because you keep buying Grand Theft Auto over and over
but I
again.
don't play Grand Theft Auto online, so I'm not the one spending money
Hmm.
on shark cards and stuff. Anyways,
Shark cards.
yeah, shark cards. Um. Anyways, I hope you guys are enjoying the show, and if you are, make sure you hit the like button. We have someone already saying, "No, Rand, don't buy it." Yeah, it is what it is. I'm gonna definitely buy it. I want to play the campaign again. Stodgy Caesar says you're buying GTA 5 again for the campaign. I mean, I own a lot of games on Xbox. Like I said, I bought Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I didn't even know I was really gonna play it until I started it up, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna play all of them." Sometimes I just buy games just to own them. But yeah, I kind of want to play through the campaign again at 60 frames. I don't know. That's just me. You don't have to, but I kind of want to. And I don't know. Maybe I'll just buy the game and I won't play it. Who knows? It happens. It happens sometimes where I buy a game and I don't play it. Jez, let's talk about some other things. I figured first. What do you want to talk about here? Let's talk about your article, shall we?
Sure.
You wrote an article about how Xbox is beginning to play dirty. Explain to the people why you think this is the case and why you think they have to play dirty if they really want to compete with PlayStation this generation, not only for this gen but also for the upcoming gens. Why it's important, and why there's why there's a double standard sometimes.
Well, this article was inspired by like conversation we had last week, but it's kind of like, there was this double standard where Microsoft went out and funded Rise of the Tomb Raider's development, apparently, and then everyone was mad about it. And then a lot of blogs were like highlighting all the tweets and all the outrage about it. But I don't see the same kind of outrage for Final Fantasy VII, or I don't see the same kind of outrage for Final Fantasy 16 or Street Fighter or whatever else Sony's going to buy, because there is a sort of like, I don't know, a sort of just an expectation that it's okay for Sony to do this. But if Microsoft does it, it's like a mean corporation punching down at Sony, who is also a massive corporation. So I don't know. But anyway, it was kind of like, it was just about the fact that Microsoft seems to be more aware of the fact that Sony is willing to play dirty, and the only way Microsoft can circumvent that is to play dirty back. I'm not someone who advocates for timed exclusivity for Xbox or PlayStation. In a perfect world, every game would be available on every platform and we could just play wherever we wanted, and we'd be able to play cross-play with all of our friends no matter what console they were on, a PC, phones, whatever. I'm the kind of, I'm not batting for Xbox when I talk about that. I'm just talking about this is just an analytical view that Microsoft has shown that it's willing to fight back, fight for its customers, of which we are members, and a lot of people watching this podcast are members. Ultimately, at the end of the day, competition leads to innovation and leads to, well, theoretically leads to innovation, theoretically leads to a better product and better value for, the customers within the companies that are competing for our money. So I want to see Xbox compete. I want to see them go hard. I want to see them go as hard as Sony. And we're getting that now. We're getting them buying Bethesda. We're getting them buying MLB The Show. We're getting them buying Outriders into Game Pass. And they are where, like, Sony are, undercutting entire franchises with, Final Fantasy and stuff. Xbox is going to do the same with Starfield. Presumably, they're going to do the same with Fallout and Elder Scrolls as well. And Sony have forced that on them. Sony's going to play like that. I think Xbox should play like that. Because if Xbox doesn't play like that, Xbox customers are losing out, and we are Xbox customers. And for every game that Sony pays to not be on Xbox, there should be a franchise that Microsoft pays to not be on PlayStation. If Sony wants to play it like that, I want Xbox to play it like that. And I think we're seeing signs that they are going to play it like that. That's ultimately what it is. And I think a lot of people say, well, why don't you just like buy multiple consoles? I think that's like a dumb argument to make, because people can't afford to buy two consoles, sometimes. And maybe they just don't want to invest in multiple consoles. I don't. But,
So
that's what it's all about.
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, what you're basically talking about is just business, right?
It's just business,
There is a bit of double standard, I will say, about the type of deals that Sony makes. Nobody really seems to. I mean, some people do. The Final Fantasy stuff is usually heralded as the Sony fans will say, this is just Sony looking out for the audience. They make us feel special by doing these exclusivity deals, right? And then you compare and contrast them when Microsoft was like, all right, we're gonna get a year exclusivity of Tomb Raider. And not only did PlayStation fans hate that, but the media hated that. The media called out Xbox for being like, how dare you money hat Tomb Raider? How dare you? Even though that's exactly what Sony did originally, remember? Back in the day, right?
Like Microsoft had to come out here and basically apologize in interviews for that whole thing.
Yeah, they totally did, but like Sony basically money hats everything Final Fantasy, and you don't really hear a peep from anybody in the media about it. Like it just seems like, Sony just doing, they're the market leader, they can do whatever, that's perfectly fine. And I think it's because, honestly, most people in the media, or at least most people at that time, had PlayStations and they wanted to play Tomb Raider and they didn't have Xbox. So they were like, this is bullshit. I want to play that game, and that game isn't coming to my console. I'm going to raise a stink about it. And that's why I think you start seeing some of the stuff with the Bethesda games, because the Bethesda games have been on PlayStation for generations. And I think some of the pushback you're seeing about the exclusivity stuff is the same thing, because a lot of these people only game on PlayStation, and they're fans of Bethesda's content, and they want to be able to play Starfield and Elder Scrolls and Doom and stuff, and they're pissed that they're not going to be able to. They're pissed that they might be forced to actually buy an Xbox or play a game on their, 3080 PCs that they all claim they have and stuff, right? I think that's some of it, is they're pissed that game isn't coming to the platform that they own. I honestly believe that's the case. And that's why people were pissed with Tomb Raider, because it wasn't coming to the dominant platform that they owned. And that's why you see a lot of pushback on the Bethesda stuff. And
the article's ultimately about keeping the same energy, I'm like someone, I don't care, If Final Fantasy is on an Xbox, kind of sucks, but it's not something I'm going to lose sleep over, because I'm someone with limited time. Like, I'll just play something else. But I can see, like, if you're a big fan of Final Fantasy, it sucks, it sucks for Xbox fans. And similarly, if you're on PlayStation and Elder Scrolls 6 is announced as Xbox exclusive, that's going to suck too, but the thing is, it's business at the end of the day. It's the business. So it's the article is ultimately about, like, if Sony can do it, why can't Microsoft do it? Is it because Microsoft's a bigger company that they should give Sony charity? Or is it really because, like what you said, they personally want the game on that system, and they, consciously or not, want to influence, the argument in that direction, So, it is what it is at the end of the day. It's just about keeping that same energy,
Stop saying that, keeping the same energy. Like, I honestly think that is just I don't know, that whole saying's played out. That's so, I every time I hear that.
Isn't that what you guys say?
I don't say that.
That's an American thing,
Randall
right?
Thor 19 does not say keep that same energy.
I just thought that was an American thing.
I'm not necessarily sure it's I think it's just a meme thing, to be honest with you. You know,
Okay, well,
I don't.
okay, well, keep the consistency.
Oh yeah, I mean keep. Yeah, I mean
park the hypocrisy and
I
stuff
don't know.
like that.
The keep this same energy. I get what it means, and yeah, people should, but people never do, right? So I don't know. Brett says Sony has played shady for years. If Xbox plays dirty, Sony will cry uncle and play the victim. Sony banned Resident Evil 8 from Game Pass for 7 years, shaking my head. Well, no, they didn't ban it from Game Pass. It's just, part of their whole marketing arrangement is that they get first dibs on Resident Evil in PlayStation Now or PS Plus for a year, which I am totally fine with. It's not banned from Game Pass for 7 years. It's just that Sony has the exclusivity window for 1 year, and then Capcom can do whatever they want. I'm sure Microsoft has the same sort of standards of, if they have a marketing deal with a game, then they don't want that game to show up in PS Now or PS Plus. I think it's just standard contract stuff that these companies employ. Installation 7 says, not saying they will or can do this, but Xbox should lock down timed exclusive deals for Kingdom Hearts franchise for Game Pass to fight back. I mean, the only way Xbox can really fight back is you buy these studios, buy Bethesda, you buy other ones, and you just have them make games exclusively for your ecosystem and have those games be great. Where people on PlayStation or people on Nintendo look at Xbox with those jealous eyes, with jealousy, and they say to themselves, well, I really want to play that game. I really want to play Outer Worlds 2. It's not on PlayStation this time. Guess I'm going to have to buy an Xbox Series S. Guess I'm going to have to buy a Series X. Guess I'm going to have to get a Game Pass subscription on my PC. You know what? I don't even have a console, but my DualSense is supported by xCloud. I do have a smart TV, and there is an Xbox app. I guess I could just sign up for Game Pass on my Samsung TV, Xbox Game Pass app, and just use the DualSense controller. So that's how Microsoft fights back. More exclusive content. But I don't think Xbox will do it like Sony does, Jez, because I think it's all about Game Pass for them. So their deals will be more focused around getting the titles into Game Pass rather than excluding Sony from the game from releasing on Sony's platforms. You know what I mean? That's what I think That's what I think Xbox will do. It'll be like, we want Battlefield 6 in Game Pass on day one. Not necessarily like we want Battlefield 6 exclusive, but we want it in Game Pass on day one, and you can still release it on PlayStation. That's why I think the Game Pass deal and more developers should take advantage of it. Because
I mean, the Game Pass, there's a component here that exclusivity kind of can hurt a game, right? Like, exclusivity on when you make a game exclusive on PlayStation, it doesn't necessarily hurt a game to the same extent where it's exclusive on the smaller platform might potentially, because less people hear about your brand, and you want everyone to be celebrating Final Fantasy ultimately. I hope Sony's paying a lot of money for that stuff, because it's not exactly making the Final Fantasy brand look in a favorable light to anyone who's on the Xbox platform right now. But maybe that's short-term thinking or whatever. But the Game Pass deal, it kind of it allows you to still have a big player base, and that's especially important for a multiplayer game. Like, you couldn't have Battlefield be exclusive on Xbox because the player base would be small, compared to what it would be if you're on PlayStation as well. So that's it's a win-win scenario. And I said this on Twitter the other day. Phil Spencer seems to be like an artist when it comes to creating win-win scenarios, right? I really do feel like that, because the whole xCloud thing is a win-win scenario because it's powered by Xbox consoles. So that you're anchoring and legitimizing the Xbox console development environment while expanding the reach of it far beyond the console install base. That's a win-win. The Game Pass situation, allowing, creating value for Xbox gamers without necessarily taking the game away from other consoles, that's a win-win, And Phil's Xbox seemed to be great at pulling off these win-win scenarios, and I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it, and I'm keeping the same energy, and I'm gonna just keep using memes to annoy you now.
Okay, that's great. Andrew said, "Is the Ascent getting a physical release? Do you know if Ascent's getting a physical release, Jez?" Because I don't know. I'm not sure if it is.
Let me just look it up on Amazon right now. The Ascent Amazon. No, it doesn't look like it is.
Achievement says, "Dream game. Microsoft buys Sega, revives Crazy Taxi, turns it into a kart racer with Xbox, Bethesda, Sega IPs made on the Forza Tech engine." It's interesting. Christian says, "Hey guys, love the pod. Are either of you guys worried that all this Starfield hype is leading to another Cyberpunk letdown?" We'll definitely be talking about that because we do have a Starfield segment coming up here. Because there's a lot of stuff going on about Starfield. Exclusivity, release dates, people being wrong. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about Starfield. But I do agree that Xbox needs to... they need to be more aggressive with some of the deals they do, right? And I'm fine with them just making more deals to get a lot of these games day one in Game Pass. But like you said, Sony's not going to stop. They want the PlayStation 5 to be the number one console, and they're going to go and they're going to try to money hunt a lot of different things. And Final Fantasy is just one of them. You know, there's rumors that there's going to be a new Final Fantasy exclusive for PlayStation going to be announced in June, which, you know, would be big for the platform. Say what you will. If you're not really that interested in Final Fantasy, that's you. But, like, Final Fantasy is still a big franchise. And the fact that Xbox gamers are getting the cold shoulder from Square Enix, it sucks. You know, like, you put all these Final Fantasy games on Game Pass, but then you won't bring all the new games to Xbox. So, like, you have to wait for Final Fantasy VII Remake, right? And then you finally wait that year. And you think it's coming, and nope, Sony just extends it even further to the point where there's not even a PC version coming yet, right? And then Final Fantasy 16 looks like that might be a permanent exclusive or a 2-year. Like, it just seems like Square Enix is telling Xbox gamers, like, yeah, this isn't the platform for you if you want to get on it. And Sony will probably do more with that stuff, and it's business at the end of the day. As much as you know, a lot of people hate it, Xbox just has to be like, you know what? We're just going to continue to acquire more studios and make those games exclusive and have those games be good, so people want to actually play on Xbox. And it's just what it is. I mean, they have to compete. Yeah,
I don't begrudge Sony doing that either, because, like you say, it's business, and they
takes two to tango, right?
It takes two to tango, and PlayStation is Sony's pretty much entire business.
So it is true.
I don't begrudge them doing that. I really don't. You know, do what you got to do. It's business, and but I just hope that Xbox competes on, you know, equal footing. And judging from the way they've been moving recently, I think, you know, they have been. So, yeah.
And you can definitely tell how much it bothers people based on the Starfield stuff and the exclusivity, because even now there's people whining and crying about it. Like, people were sure that Starfield and all these other games were going to be on PlayStation. Like, even though they have no basis in reality, they just, like, they thought in their head, well, Microsoft spent that money, so of course they're going to have to sell on PlayStation to make their money back, right? PlayStation's important, and that's where I play. And they were making all this mental gymnastics in their head to try to come up with the reason why these games were still going to come to PlayStation, because they didn't want to accept the fact that they would have to play those Bethesda games elsewhere, right? That's what it's all about. It's the same thing with Rise of the Tomb Raider. I want to play that game, but it's not on my platform, so I'm going to whine and complain and try to come up with reasons, you know, why it's going to be on my platform. And and we saw some of it this past week, right? Which we'll talk about in 1 second here. Glacier Dawn. Here you go. Here you go, Jez. He says, battle rapper Hollow the Dawn made up the phrase "keep the same energy." So there you go. This history of where that comes from, I guess.
I see it on TikTok and Instagram Reels all the time.
Yeah, people overuse it. It's Joker76 says, any new news on Omen from Arcane? Severely hyped about that. No, I mean, I don't even know if that's like a real thing. That's just something we've seen floating around. We do know that Arcane Austin rather, has a new game. They might be ready to show at E3. If it's a vampire game, great. If it's Dishonored 3, amazing. If it's Prey 2, awesome. It doesn't matter. Can't wait to play whatever Arcane's putting out. And I don't know if you saw some of the Deathloop previews, Jez, that the media put out.
Dude, I wrote one.
You wrote one. All right. That game looks incredible.
I saw that preview.
That game looks absolutely incredible. Arcane might be the best studio from that Bethesda purchase, right? They're severely underrated, but they make incredible games. And
better than Bethesda Game Studios itself?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Dude, Dishonored, yes. If you're asking me what's
better,
Dishonored and Prey. Dishonored and Prey are better than Fallout and Elder Scrolls, yes.
You are smoking something serious,
I'm just speaking my truth. I would much rather play a Dishonored game or a Prey game than play an Elder Scrolls or Fallout game. Now, I will say this. Elder Scrolls is better than Fallout. Fallout is like kind of the bottom tier there of those games. But Arcane makes better games. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is.
You know I love Prey.
Oh, I know you do.
Elder Scrolls is the Mac Daddy, man. I'm questioning your judgment right now.
I'm questioning your judgment.
I'm questioning your judgment, Rand.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, you also talk about how Halo's a Lego game and all this stuff. Whatever. It's fine. It's whatever.
Game.
In my opinion, Arcane makes better games than Bethesda Softworks. Hey, man, you can cap for Fallout 76 all day. Go ahead, Jez. They made that game.
You're using
made that
meme
game.
language now. What the fuck does cap mean? What does that mean? What does it mean?
What do you mean? Arcane has not made a bad game. Fallout 76. But
what does cap mean? I'm gonna cap for this. What does that mean?
You're just gonna cap for it, bro.
What does it mean? You're meme languaging me.
Man, people in chat are definitely disagreeing with me on this one. Apparently Arcane games aren't as good as Elder Scrolls or Fallout. Someone please in chat, someone back me up. Where's Sam Tolbert? I know Sam Tolbert would agree with me on this one.
Dude, I don't know, man. Like, I can literally blow someone's brains out with a piece of junk.
Bethesda Game Studios, not Bethesda Softworks. I'm just saying, all I'm going to say is if Arcane released a new game on the same day Bethesda Softworks released a new Fallout, like Fallout 5, I'm playing that Arcane game first.
Man.
That's all I'm saying. 100% Arcane is better to me. I always got to remember it's my opinion.
No cap, bro.
Randall Cap. I'm with you, Rand. Randall muted, Randall Cap. Yeah. Jonas says, I'm smoking something serious. Rand is high AF right now. A lot of people think. I love the Arcane games, though, so I don't care. Like, you guys already know I'm not the biggest fan of Fallout, so I mean, like, of course I think Arcane's better. You know what I mean? So, I shouldn't be that much of a surprise.
No cap, bro. Hello, fellow kids.
Yeah.
Man, if we start using meme language, we can make like a YouTube kids version of the podcast.
There's my guy Sam Tolbert. He goes, "I got you, Rand. Arcane is the best studio at Xbox." He says he's not. I was saying I think they're the best Bethesda studio. He's going even a step further and saying they're the best Xbox studio. Period, Jez.
Well, they're the second best. I'll give you that.
Who's the first? Bethesda Softworks? Bethesda Game Studios or whatever. So Bethesda Game Studios, Bethesda Softworks.
Todd Howard.
Yes, man. Todd Howard, the guy that got up on stage and talked about Fallout 76, and we all know how that ended up, right? That Todd Howard?
Fallout 76 is underrated, man.
Was it underrated when it launched?
Well, it was COVID, man. Blame COVID.
COVID? Fallout 76 released. What do you?
Nah, we blame COVID for these things now.
I think Jez's high AF is right now. Jeez, blaming COVID for the state of Fallout 76. My lord. I will say Fallout 76 is, everybody says it's a lot better now. A lot of the issues are fixed, but, that wasn't the case when the game launched.
That is based, Rand. That is based.
And fair enough. Fallout 76 was made by a different team, and it wasn't really made by the main Todd Howard team. He just tried to sell it on stage, and he did a good job of it. He's always very good. Yeah. That's why I think if you're doing an Xbox E3 show, you need to open up that show with Todd Howard introducing Starfield. That's what you need to lead with to get people pumped. You started up, hey, here's the Xbox show, which, when do you think they're going to announce it, Jez? We know it's going to be between June 12th and June 15th. Could it be the Sunday or the Monday? Do you think they wait to the week before to announce the show? Do you think maybe they announce it next week? When do you think they're finally going to announce this thing and confirm what, the rumor has been going around about? Is it going to be one show with just Xbox and then another show with Bethesda? Is it going to be one long show with the Bethesda section in there? When do you think Microsoft will officially confirm all this stuff?
Didn't they announce it, or was that just a rumor?
Well,
was it just a rumor?
So Matt Booty gave an interview to a French thing where he kind of confirmed that it was a combined show, but they still haven't really they still haven't really said when it's happening. How would you envision this happening? Do you think we'll see a 90-minute show, hour of Xbox stuff, 30 minutes of Bethesda? Do you think there's going to be where they're talking about Xbox and they say, okay, and here's Pete Hines to talk about what Bethesda's doing for 30 minutes? Or do you think they just slide in individual game announcements here, there, in the beginning, middle, and end for Bethesda things? If you had to put on your hat, your prediction hat, how do you think that plays out?
Well, I think a shared show would be lit and based. And
are we doing memes now? Is the Xbox 2 now just turned into a meme show?
Okay. Nah, I think it's going to be a dual show. Matt Booty pretty much said as much, right?
Yeah.
You could split it right down the middle. The rumor is right now that a lot of the Xbox games are further out. Your Everwild's rumored to be, soft rebooted or whatever, and Hellblade's rumored to not be at the show, and what else is there? I'm expecting to see Project Typhoon at the show, which is being made by a certain studio. I don't know. Shall I just? Nah, I won't. But yeah, I'm expecting to see.
You really do want to just name the studio, don't you?
Yeah, it's
there's
hard,
there's been a lot of correct guesses on it, but I'm not gonna say who it is. That's all on you. But then again, we only got a couple weeks to wait. You might as well let people discover that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shout out to Raiden Blade for becoming the newest member. Appreciate you, man. Enjoy all the emotes and stuff. But, do you think Xbox... I guess here's the question. Do you think Xbox has all their plans nailed down? Do they know everything that's at the show 100%? Or do you think there's still last minute behind the scenes where it's things can get pulled, things can get re-added back in? What do you think?
I know I've heard that the show is not set in stone. There's a bunch of things that are still being decided right now. They've got blocks of content that they can take out, put in, save for later, maybe improve them. There's a whole bunch of content that sort of gets approved or left on the cutting, the editing room floor or whatever, and stuff like that. There's still, from what I've heard, there's still stuff that's still being debated about what to include in it and stuff. So, I don't think it's everything set in stone yet, based on what I've heard. But I do think that we'll see a good deal of Bethesda stuff. We'll see a good deal of Xbox stuff. Maybe there'll be stuff that is a surprise. Maybe there'll be stuff that, we expect. And maybe there'll be some disappointments too. I'm not expecting to see Hellblade gameplay. We might see Hellblade something, but I don't think we'll see Hellblade gameplay. I don't think we'll see State of Decay gameplay, although who knows? Could be surprised. I personally don't have any, documentation that describes a lot of what's going to happen in the show. I know fragments and stuff, but I just think it's going to be a pretty dense show with a lot of new stuff in it. And I don't think it will be a disappointing show. There's been some talk that it's like going to be, there's already people who are sort of worried and concerned that it's not going to be a blockbuster show, and we do have the whole COVID thing, and that does complicate matters. Still complicates matters, but if you're going with like low expectations, you can't be disappointed, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think you want to tell people to go in with low expectations, because now you're basically telling people not to expect much.
Well, I live life like that, Rand. I just have low expectations for life.
Yeah, you know what Jez said to me before we started the show? Mate, what are we going to talk about? This is going to be a bad show. You're talking about low expectations? Jez
there hasn't been much major news this week, but we seem to be.
Jez, we're professional podcasters. We've been doing this now for over 4 years. We know what we're doing.
4 years?
I mean, yeah, 4 years. We're over 4 years. This is like the 173rd or 174th episode. There doesn't have to be news for us to do a podcast. And just look, we just had a segment that where I was basically right about how Arcane's the best Bethesda studio and how their games are better than anybody else's really at Bethesda. And it was a great segment. People totally agreed with me.
That is cringe pilled, man.
Cringe pill? Stop your capping, bro. Shout out to John BX32 for becoming the newest channel member. Appreciate you, man. Enjoy the emotes. Here you go, Jez. Here's a question for you from Raj. Jez, do you know how many of the Xbox Series X blades go towards servers, and if any recent sales figures are even accurate, since Microsoft keeps it to themselves, the analysts won't disclose how they get those numbers? Like, I think me and you were actually talking about this before the show, about how Atlantic, an analysis or analytic company gave out figures for how many PS5s they thought were sold in Q1 globally versus how many Xboxes. And it was something like 2.8 million to 1.3. But you don't think that's necessarily 100% accurate. So what can you say to Raj about the Series X blades and how many goes to customers and how many goes to the blade stuff? Because you said on Twitter recently that Microsoft is currently upgrading xCloud into the Series X blades, and they're currently testing it before they roll it out. So
I mean, what I said on Twitter was kind of simplified. Like I just said chips, but really what I meant was like just components in general. Like Microsoft is, there is a global semiconductor shortage right now, and some of the stuff, the tech that Microsoft can get their hands on, is going into investing in xCloud, which technically you could consider to be, Xbox Series X nodes and stuff like that. Like the lines are getting blurry between like what exactly constitutes a console sale. That's why Microsoft doesn't talk about console sales anymore. It talks about Game Pass engagement, because when a lot of your users are in the cloud playing from console-oriented server blades, it kind of blurs the picture a little bit, which is why I don't put a lot of stock in these retail sales predictions. It's more interesting for retail, and just to get a picture of what physical retail is like. It's not really interesting from a console war perspective, because the console war is shifting away from this sort of stuff. It's all about engagement. It's all about your software sales. Like Sony could sell like 500 million consoles. If no one's buying any games, then it doesn't matter, right? Because they're selling that stuff at cost. So the story with that analysis really is more interesting from, if you're a GameStop investor. It's not interesting if you're interested in what Xbox and Sony are doing. It's not interesting if you're actually following where the industry is going. But if you're a GameStop investor, of which there may well be some on this in the chat, because GameStop's shares are pretty popular at the moment. So that might be interesting for them, but I don't think it's interesting from a console wars perspective. I don't know if the figures are right. I don't have any information on that, but I just don't care because it's not interesting. Tell me how many. I'm more interested in how Game Pass is doing, because that's where it's all going. Like no one ever talks about, like, I don't know how many DVDs has Netflix rented out, because that's not their business anymore. So I think that analysis was full of cringe pills, Rand.
Jesus. People are wondering why we're speaking so young. They just got into the chat and they're like, why are they using these memes? Brett says, is Xbox acquiring Iron Galaxy given their past with Xbox and Bethesda? Maybe a Killer Instinct 2 announcement. I don't think so.
Isn't Iron Galaxy owned by someone else?
No, they're independent.
I'm getting them mixed up with Splash Damage, I think.
Yeah, they're independent. They recently said, like, hey, we'd love to work on a Killer Instinct 2 if given the opportunity or whatever, and it's just like, okay. Like, I don't know, like, I don't think Iron Galaxy is interested in working on Killer Instinct. That's just my personal opinion. So I think if they really want it, we know that Microsoft wants to continue the franchise. It's just that, like, they haven't found a developer to do it, or they haven't liked any of the pitches from any of the developers enough to greenlit it. But hopefully we can get a Killer Instinct 2 in the future. I don't think Microsoft will acquire Iron Galaxy. I don't think they want to be acquired. Raiden Blade says, between Xbox and Bethesda, 3 to 4 hours E3 show. Probably not. I think you're probably looking at about a 90-minute show, maybe an hour, 45 minutes. Like if you look at Xbox's game showcase last year, it was an hour. You add Bethesda onto that, maybe you get 30 minutes for them or 30 minutes for their content. So I think you're looking at about an hour and a half. Gamer O'Malley.
I just want to say... Oh, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, Gamer O'Malley says, anyone else tired of the wait? I am. Hey, man.
I am.
I mean, people... It is what it is. If, you don't have to wait. Nobody's like telling you to wait for anything. Like, that's up to you as a consumer. If you think Microsoft is not providing you with adequate experiences, then you're free to play on different platforms. Nobody's keeping you locked down to an ecosystem. It's all. If you feel that the games are too far away, then go, it's totally in your right to move somewhere else if you don't want to, quote unquote, wait. I mean, wait, am I wrong on that, Jez? I mean, it's just up to each individual person. Some people understand that the game's going to take time. Some people are like, I don't want to wait anymore, and that's perfectly legitimate, I think. So, if you want to
I think
get a PlayStation,
that's a completely legitimate argument.
You're a consumer.
If I was,
go where you think you're going to get the best bang for your dollar,
Yeah. I'm someone who I don't have the time to game as much as I used to. So, like, I'm someone who is thoroughly satisfied with what Xbox is putting out across first and third party, because, I don't need more right now. But if you're someone who has a lot of time to game and you've got FOMO looking at what Sony's putting out, just buy a PlayStation. That's capitalism, baby.
I mean, look, I have all the systems. I'm not waiting for anything. I play everything on my Xbox. I play my PlayStation when there's exclusives comes out. I don't know when but like the point here is, like, I own all the systems, so I can play at, like, I'm not waiting for anything. Xbox puts out a game, I'm playing it. PlayStation puts out a game, I'm playing it. Like, I don't feel underserved on any platform because I own them all, right?
Which platform are you gonna get Peppa Pig for?
Oh God, if I were to play Peppa Pig, I'd totally get it for Xbox, bro.
Do you think it'll be 120 frames?
I mean, I would totally play it in 120 frames.
Oh my God. I seriously, like, when Peppa Pig comes out, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna review it, and I'm gonna give you gameplay footage to put on the podcast.
Jesus. Paul says, if Halo released last year, what was the game from Xbox Game Studios lined up for this fall? Interesting question. COVID hit Xbox hard. Presumably Forza Horizon 5, and that's and Psychonauts 2, and that's really about it. I mean, you can talk about how maybe Xbox wasn't as prepared for the beginning of this generation as Sony was. You could talk about and I think a lot of Xbox's games were set for 2022, so it was always going to be light that first year. I think like Avowed and some of these other titles were supposed to hit that year, and maybe Avowed still will. But I think Xbox is. I mean, Matt Booty talked about this in his recent interview, how they were hit incredibly hard by COVID. And the entire video game industry has, right? Even Sony's games have been delayed a lot of months, even though they're coming out a lot. They have quite a bit coming out this first year. A lot of them were supposed to already be out at this point. It's just that a lot of it's been delayed, and it's not just Xbox and it's not just PlayStation. It's like everybody. Like you already saw Warner Brothers delay Hogwarts Legacy and Gotham Knights to next year. Deathloop was basically delayed almost a whole year.
And look at what happened to Fallout 76 because of COVID, man.
Yeah, look at what happened to them. But not, they just delayed. I mean, Matt Booty said like it really hit studios that were working on new IP, but not so much studios that were working on sequels. But yeah, I mean, we always talked about this even before when we were talking about the lead up to Xbox. That me and Jez always said. We thought the first year from Xbox was going to be incredibly light from content from Xbox's first party, because we kind of can look at what the studios are doing and kind of project, okay, what titles could you potentially see? And we were 100% right on that. It definitely was light. It was going to be light. Microsoft has a lot of deals with a lot of indie games and some other like Crossfire X's, the Warhammers, the Stalkers 2 to kind of fill in those gaps, to making the Game Pass deals and stuff like that. But if you're talking strictly from first party, yeah, like it was always going to be not a lot of stuff from them. It just that's how it all just kind of the cards laid out on the table. You know what I mean? I don't know what else to say on that one. That's kind of just. And me and Jez were definitely not out here saying there are going to be so many exclusives you're not going to know what to do with yourself. Because we always try to be truthful to our audience that people want to, I know a lot of people just want to hear great news from Xbox, being like everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows and it's all going to be great and, you're going to have so much to play. But we've always been consistent basically saying like from first party, you're not going to see a lot for the first year and a half. And that's kind of exactly how it played out, unfortunately. But I don't know what else, I don't know what really else to say about that. I mean, you can complain about it on Twitter, you can complain about it on YouTube, but it's not going to make the games get made any faster. It's not going to suddenly make COVID magically disappear for the last year, right?
No, it's time. It takes time to make games, and it takes a lot of time to make a good game. So, like, if you want them to have good games, you need to wait a little bit.
Don't say that word. They're going to clip that and being like, Jez is saying wait.
Wait.
I mean, but people... I don't know. Like I said, people don't have to wait. If you don't like the experience you're getting, then go somewhere else and get the experience that you want. You know what that's just the way it is. If you don't like what Xbox is doing and how long it's going to take for first-party games to come out, get out. Like, you have other options. You can go play on PC. You can go play on PlayStation. You can go play on Switch. It's not like if you switch platforms or go somewhere else, you're going to, die or something. It's just, I don't know. Like, that's up to you. Code Zero says, hey guys, love the show. Hope y'all stop capping and realize Ninja Theory is Xbox's best studio. They are pretty damn good. Quick question. Any word on Playdead's next game? The only thing we know about it is that it's being published by Epic. And I really want to see what it is because I love Playdead. God, Inside was one of the best games from this past generation.
What if Playdead made the Pepper game?
Oh, I play it. I totally would because I bet you it would be amazing. Punkadish, my man, says, all I know is that I want some damn Splinter Cell. Great show, boys. Yes, we definitely want to see... Splinter Cell come back. I do. And if Ubisoft isn't going to make a Splinter Cell game, like Microsoft, just throw them some money to make a Splinter Cell game or something. I don't know. Zach says, with the monthly Halo Infinite update coming soon, do you expect a tease of what will be shown at E3? Do I expect a tease of what will be shown at E3? They could tease it. Yeah, I think they could. Maybe they even start teasing some of the multiplayer stuff. But definitely I'm expecting, like, back to E3 stuff. Like, Halo Infinite is going to be front and center. They may not open the show with it because, Jez says, if you got God Howard in your stable and he's about to show off a game, would it be better to show Starfield at the beginning, Jez? Starfield at the end? If Xbox and Bethesda really think Starfield's the next big thing, right? The next big thing, as big as Elder Scrolls or Fallout, do you just hit them with that shock and awe at the beginning and just be like, bam, this is Starfield, here's what it is, this is how it looks, this is how it plays, and guess what? It's only on Xbox and PC, not coming to PlayStation, well, they wouldn't say not coming to PlayStation, but exclusive to Xbox and PC, right? Day one on Game Pass, give a date, supposedly, we'll talk about that in a minute, and just start out the show on this foot about Starfield, where if it's really good, like, maybe that dominates the whole conversation and people look at it and be like, damn, Xbox has got some, like, is that how you would want to start it? Or would you save it for the very end when people, like, I don't know, I always kind of think you save surprises for the end, stuff that nobody really thinks about, like Starfield. And while Starfield, we don't know anything about it, we know it exists and we know it's going to be there. So I kind of feel like you just start the show with it, man. You just get it right off. You just start, you just start running.
Ah, man, I don't know, because like Todd likes to do those long 50-minute walkthrough demos, and I like that. And I don't know. I could see Starfield going at the end because of the long Todd demo, which I would be sad if we didn't get one of those. I don't want to see like an Xbox style rapid fire trailer for Starfield. I want a slow Todd demo with Todd, narrating. That's nice. I like that.
But wouldn't they give? Wouldn't they give the demo next year though?
Tell me sweet little lies. I don't know. I suppose if it is true that Starfield is launching towards the end of next year, which is something I've heard independently of the other people.
Yeah, I guess we need to talk about that. So. For a game that nobody knows anything about, Starfield still has a lot of hype. Like, we don't know anything about it, yet it's talked about all the time, right? And shout out to Georgie in the super chat. He says, hopefully Everwild Reboot is a single player game, and it more than likely will be a co-op game. That's kind of the stuff that Rare's interested in. And Raiden Blade says, Sony did the same thing, third party covers first party. But Starfield. So Jeff Grubb came out. So I was involved in this, Jez. And actually, so was Xbox too. Last week when we did the show, we had a bunch of comments and super chats from people basically saying, like, Jeff Grubb is saying the game's not exclusive or he doesn't know, blah, 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 right? So I tweeted it out. I was like, hey, we get a lot of questions about Starfield's exclusivity. Jeff, clear the air. And Jeff was like, it's exclusive to Xbox and PC. I'm confirming that, right? This is me confirming that. And then you wrote an article about why it's not coming to PlayStation. It's all about Game Pass, driving subs. I mean, you've talked about it. You've said in tweets that, like, Microsoft projects, like, Elder Scrolls to be the biggest Elder Scrolls ever because of, like, the console reach plus, like, the PC reach and, like, xCloud reach, right?
Yeah.
So, like, they're not really losing out on PlayStation. And, essentially, it's like, it's one of those things where even though it's not going to be on PlayStation, it's still going to be able to reach as many people as possible, and the games will be even cheaper than ever, right? You can subscribe to Game Pass. So they bought this stuff so they can drive people to their ecosystem. So it never made any sense for any reason whatsoever for those games to be on your competitor's platform. Like, I don't know why people believe that. It's because, honestly, they wanted to play those games on their preferred platform, and they don't like the fact that they're not going to be able to. I think a lot of people don't like the fact that Xbox is trying to compete this time around in a more meaningful way, competing with new studios that are going to make exclusive games, competing by getting some of these third-party games day one in Game Pass, where then PlayStation gamers have to pay full price, like Outriders or MLB The Show. They don't like that because they want Microsoft to just roll over and die. They like to brag on social media that Sony makes the best games and they have the best sales and that nobody can touch them. They don't really actually want true competition. They don't actually want Microsoft to make great exclusives and have make a ton of acquisitions, because they don't really want to, like, they want to degrade Xbox with every breath they have. They don't actually want to give them props for anything. That's just sort of the way I see it, right? But back to Starfield.
Yeah, it's just funny because everyone always said Xbox needs better exclusives, and then Microsoft buys Bethesda, and it's like, oh no, not like that.
Yeah, not
like that.
Yeah, not like that. Xbox has no games. Xbox has too many games. Please share these games with us, right? But back to Starfield. Jeff confirming the exclusivity stuff, and then it was about the release date. And yes, I've said on this podcast where I was quoted, and where I was quoted in articles, and I was upset about it because, like, this podcast is very informal. It's just me and Jez having a conversation, right? And I said, hey, like, I had been told that the game was going to be exclusive, which it is, right? And then I was also told this other stuff about the game being kind of complete and being bug-free, or people working on QA, but there was a possibility it might launch this year, but maybe it would launch next year. And a lot of websites were like, oh, Randall Thor's saying this, that it's actually coming this year. And it really upset me because, like, I thought it was taken out of context in that situation. And it turns out that looks like the game is coming way later than I had thought, or at least I was told, end of next year. And if for anybody listening, like, I apologize for it. Like, I always try to at least pride myself on being correct when it comes to this stuff. And normally I don't really share some of the things I hear, but, like, yeah, I mean, if anybody's disappointed that the game's later than normal, like, I'm sorry that that's the way it turned out. I trust the people that tell me stuff, and 90% of the time it's usually always right. But in this case, it wasn't. And I don't know what else to really say other than that. So, Jez, it's funny because Jez told me a couple days before Jason Schreier put out that tweet that he's like, bro, it's late 2022, like Q4. And I'm like, are you serious? And Jez's like, yeah. And I'm like, fuck me. I was like, really? And you were like, yeah. I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. And then
that's why, like, when Miles was making a video about the rumors, and I said to him, you should probably put in there that it might release later in 2022, because I did hear that, and if Jason heard it too, then it was probably, like, pretty solid info.
But it's just really weird because, like, it was more than one person that was telling me that it was in this state and it would come. There's a chance it could come out this year and maybe early next year.
Maybe they just decided, like, they didn't need it this year.
No,
maybe.
Jason said on Reset Era he thinks a lot of the wrong information came from the Microsoft side of things. Where he didn't think a lot of people at Microsoft really knew the true state of the games. At least not, like, I mean, Phil and obviously those people would. He thinks there's this conflicting information about the game, which
maybe they're like going to start the marketing in quarter one or something, and it's sort of just gets lost in translation sometimes. I don't know, but yeah, it's game development's weird, and leaking game development's even weirder.
Yeah, so. I guess I'll refrain from sharing anything any people tell me from now on. I'll just be very, very, very. Well,
it's all about framing and disclaimers, isn't it? It's like if it's like, if you're not sure, you have to just say, take this with a pinch of salt, because it's always fun to speculate on rumors and stuff. Like, I get rumors all the time, but like I say on this show, I won't publish anything to Windows Central unless I have physical document evidence or a rock solid source. Like, I won't take stuff from anonymous tips and stuff like that unless, like, it's backed up by something, corporeal, So it's but that's the thing about, like, when you're dealing with people who are trying to make an article out of it, they kind of omit the informal discussion of a speculative rumor and just be like, this guy said this. And, because Starfield's such a hyped game, I was trolling Jeff Grubb on Twitter because the other day I was like, Jeff, tweet something about Starfield. I need some clicks, Because when I covered Jeff's rumors from the other day, the traffic was just crazy, and I knew it would be crazy because it's anything Starfield is spicy right now.
Yeah, anything is. I mean, hey, do you hear Tom Cruise might be in Starfield?
Really?
They're I don't know. Like, people took a tweet from Bethesda. If you go look back in 2018 when they were supposedly starting to work on Starfield, they tweeted at Tom Cruise about something. And they've always had big name talent for a lot of their voice act. I mean, they had Patrick Stewart in Oblivion, and they had Liam Neeson in Fallout 3. So people saw that tweet and it was just like, Tom Cruise gonna be in Starfield? As maybe like a small, because like Patrick Stewart and Liam Neeson they weren't in the game that much,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Starfield has an insane amount of hype. And I think it's for two reasons. One, it's a new IP from Bethesda games, right? Like makers of Elder Scrolls and Fallout. So like people are naturally excited because of that. It's Todd Howard's game, so people are excited. But then two, and let's be honest with you, people hype up exclusives. And Starfield's an Xbox exclusive. So any exclusive game on any platform gets more hyped up than other stuff, and it's just the truth. So you have both those things working for it. A Bethesda game, first new IP in 25 years, and an Xbox exclusive. So all the Xbox guys are championing the game, and all the PlayStation guys are hoping it comes to their platform, even though it's not, right? And it all just kind of gets stirred in a pot, and you have this insane hype for something that nobody's really ever seen. And they joked about it on that podcast with Major Nelson, Phil, Todd Howard, and Pete Hines. Todd Howard said, I think it's getting a lot of hype for a game nobody's ever seen. And they all laughed about it because nobody knows anything about the game. And here we are talking about it. Here you are, like Jeff Grubb tweets out Starfield, and it gets a ton of retweets and likes. Like, people are just dying for information about this game. And a part of it has to do with the fact that it's an Xbox exclusive. And that exclusive stuff just gets more coverage, and people are just more interested in that stuff, those exclusive games, than multi-platform games. It just kind of is, at least because of the whole console war, Jez. It's like it's the lists, right? People put in their little, like, each exclusive game is like a gun. It's like a bullet in a gun, Game Over Brian says, just out of curiosity, who cares at the end of the day? I like PS5 and I like Xbox has a lot of great games. So does Sony. All gamer at the end of the day. Of course. I mean, that's what it is. It's all about being a gamer. You play the games you like on the platforms you like. It's just, sometimes we get away from that stuff and people talk about platforms they hate more than the platforms they love. Like, I like talking about things that I enjoy, right? I enjoy Xbox, so I talk about Xbox a lot. And while there are things I could complain and criticize Xbox for, and I do whenever they do make mistakes, like wanting to raise the price of Xbox Live Gold, I'd rather talk about the positives of the brand and where I see the platform going, rather than constantly complain about it all day, every day. Because when you're in that mood, I don't know, like, when you're constantly just complaining and stuff, like, I feel like it affects you, or at least me personally, and then I have a bad day, So I'd much rather focus on the positives of gaming and than sit here and complain about everything day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out, every single day. But I don't know. I mean, do you guys want to listen to? Would you guys tune in? We have over like 1.3 thousand people like listening here. Would you guys want to listen to the show every single day if all me and Jez did was just complain about gaming and complain about Xbox and complain about first party and how they didn't release anything this year and complain about the live service games and complain about Game Pass and complain about everything? Because there definitely are podcasts out, around that where it is based around complaints. Like that's not just something I want to talk about, and I don't think that's what you guys want to hear either. Like, right?
It's just like we acknowledge that Xbox had a problem with IP, and we acknowledge that it sucks that there's this sort of not many big exclusives, and then we haven't got to a point where they're consistently releasing exclusives yet. But there's no amount of complaining is going to make that faster. What are they going to do? Start like, I don't know, giving the devs like Adderall and having them like not sleep so they can bring games faster to stop podcasts bitching about it? It's just time is time, you just have to wait. And if you don't want to wait, buy a PlayStation or play something else. PC has a lot of games, and we're still getting Peppa the Pig.
Yeah, we're getting Peppa the Pig.
120 frames per second, Peppa the Pig, and it's gonna be lit, fam, and based.
Yeah,
bro.
Lamarcus says yes. You need to complain. That's why you don't have shit to play. I it's funny. I've seen this guy in other podcasts. Sometimes I'll be on, and he can be very disrespectful. And he thinks that the reason why Xbox doesn't have games right now is because people didn't complain enough, which is so far from the truth. Like, I've literally had discussions with Phil about all this stuff. I just don't shout into the void on Twitter about my displeasure with some of the things Xbox does. I've literally taken it to the head of Xbox and talked about these things before. What have you done besides sit here in a podcast and complain about a platform that you don't care about? Right?
That's cringe pilled, bro.
I know, it's total cringe. Like, I've done my part. Like, I've talked to people at Xbox about the perceived problems that I think they have. I've gone to the top and I've expressed those things. I don't know what else you want me to do. Like, you know what I mean? I've done that. I've done, like, because I have that avenue open to me. And the problems that I see, were essentially rectified for the most part. So it is what it is. But, like, the idea that people don't complain, so this is why Xbox in this situation is just laughably dumb and idiotic. So you can get removed from the channel. You're hidden, sir. Have a good day. Tony Art says, if you guys would only complain, I would instant block you both to save me from bad vibes. Yeah, people don't like... I don't know. It's just I'd rather be positive about stuff and look forward to, the good things that is coming. And if they're bad... If the games are bad, I'll be the first one to tell you they're bad. Yeah. Zagun says, go make some Xbox exclusive games, Rand. Yeah, I wish I could. I'll do my best. General Gorilla says, Halo Master Chief Collection Nintendo Switch might fail due to gatekeeping fans being outshadowed, favorable treatment to only Xbox version, and the FPS unfavorable in Japan. Surely the multiplats will buy it. I wonder, do you think Master Chief Collection will come to Switch, Jez?
I honestly don't know. I have no idea. I mean, we all expect that they're trying to bring xCloud to the Switch, right? I think if Master Chief comes to Switch, it'll be via an xCloud app that only has the which only has the Xbox exclusives in it. I don't think it'll have like the third-party games because Nintendo wants to sell them itself, and it sort of competes with Nintendo's model. But I'm sure there is a deal that exists where Halo could come to Nintendo Switch via xCloud. I'm sure that deal exists somewhere, and people do say, like, well, what's Xbox getting from Nintendo if they do that? You're getting a handheld Xbox if you do that, because most handheld console, options right now aren't that great. So I don't know. I think if it comes, it'll come via xCloud. It won't come natively. I can't see that happening.
Yeah. I don't know. there was that whole redacted section in that the Epic and Apple case about Nintendo, and I wonder if it had something to do with Game Pass and xCloud. I mean, they said the discussions were between the Game Pass and leadership team, but who knows what came out of it. Steven says, will Starfield be less buggy to not hurt Xbox rep? I mean, hopefully. I mean, they're not called Bethesda for nothing. And I do think with the new IP, people might be more forgiving of issues and bugs in established franchises. But I think when it comes to something brand new, I think you want that new IP to be as solid as possible and have as less issues as you possibly can make it. So if late 2022 is when they want to release Starfield, hopefully that's enough time to release a pristine product and have not have as many bugs as usual Bethesda games, right? You only get one chance to make a first impression, as they say. And they want Starfield to be the next big IP. So you want everybody to like see it at E3, get excited about it, and when it comes out, it just works. You don't want a Cyberpunk situation, right? Where, I mean, hasn't the whole Cyberpunk thing just basically like they've lost like half their value, right? The CD Projekt Red on the stock market because of it, and the game's still not even on the PlayStation Store again. It hasn't even been put back on it yet.
We did get an Xbox exclusive.
Yeah, that was an Xbox exclusive. Just nobody cared about it because Cyberpunk became a meme. You don't want your game to become a meme like Fallout 76 was when it launched, right?
Or Craig.
Or Craig, like, yeah, I mean, 343 has the ability to turn that completely around. But I mean, Cyberpunk and Fallout 76 were memes, and it's not what you want to be.
But dude, it's kind of like No Man's Sky was a meme, and honestly, No Man's Sky turned it around, man. Did you see that they put the Normandy in No Man's Sky?
Yes, I did see they put the Normandy in there, yeah. Well, I mean, that's good.
So damn cool.
It's good on them. I mean, Sea of Thieves was a meme in the beginning. I mean, it had no content, basically. Now it's a very, very popular game, has tons of stuff to do. Same thing with No Man's Sky. Some games, they launch in a bad state, and then the developers keep on at it, and they add stuff, and then they're in a good state. But then some games you get anthemed,
Anthem.
You get Anthem where they're trying to make it better, and EA's just like, nah, you're done. Or like, you look at games like Rainbow Six Siege, one of the most popular games this generation. And back when it launched in 2015, it wasn't well received at all. No. And they turned it around. They turned Sea of Thieves around. They turned No Man's Sky around. They turned Fallout 76 around. Should they have launched in that state? 100% not. Right? But, Master Chief Collection, remember how that launched back in 2014? Unplayable.
Yeah, Master Chief Collection is like wild.
And they've completely turned that around to the point where they've sold 10 million copies of it on PC, and it's in Game Pass, and it's in the top 50 Xbox games played every single month. And, I mean, there's no excusing launching a broken product, but if you do launch a broken product, you best fix it. And that's what they were trying to do with Anthem, and they didn't get a chance to, unfortunately. WB Games stuff, Jez. Now this is interesting. So we all know Xbox tried to, or at least were interested in WB Games before Bethesda. They were on the market for like $4 billion. It was like Microsoft was interested, Activision, EA, Take-Two. Nothing came out of it, right? But with AT&T essentially pulling out of entertainment and content like that, they formed like a new company in a merger with Discovery. And a lot of people don't know what's going on with WB Studios. Even the studios themselves don't know what's going on. Some people say that AT&T will get half of the studios and Discovery will get all the other half. Some people say it looks like Discovery will get all the studios. What do you think the likelihood is that Microsoft makes a play for WB Games?
Well, there is a rumor that Microsoft wants to be involved with the WB Games discussion, and NetherRealm and Mortal Kombat would be an epic get for Xbox Game Studios, because we don't have a fighting game studio right now. Killer Instinct is dormant, and desperately needs a dev to make a sequel. And also, like, Sony's got a relationship with Street Fighter, and I don't think we know for sure whether the next Street Fighter is exclusive or not. I think there's rumors that it is. I'm not 100% sure about that. But if we do get into a situation where Street Fighter goes exclusive to PlayStation again, Microsoft's going to be in a kind of awkward position. And Game Pass, the name of the game with Game Pass is diversity. You want to have like every genre accounted for. And I think NetherRealm would be a great get, and Mortal Kombat would be a great get. It's a pretty legendary franchise, like one of the, it's up there as like one of the premier, most well-known franchises in gaming history, probably. Like your parents have probably heard of Mortal Kombat, it's got that movie, that Rand loves so much. So so there is that. Someone in chat, Georgie says, Capcom leaks show Street Fighter 6's multiplayer. Well, that shuts down that argument, but still, NetherRealm would be a great get.
They do, but plans always change. That leak was at a certain point in time, and while the leak did show that, like Pointless says, who knows if Sony came in there and offered money to make it exclusive? Ono left, and he was the one pushing for multiplat. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, Sony bought Evo. Evo. To me, when they bought Evo, my first thought was they're gonna try to go after Street Fighter 6 exclusivity. But anyways, back to the whole Warner Brothers thing.
I think the ultimate the thing that holds up the Warner Brothers thing is access to the Warner Brothers IP. Your stuff like Batman, and your stuff like, I don't know what else they own. What else do they own, Rand? Harry Potter,
Lord
of the Rings.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
But the games that they make are basically all based on Warner Brothers' own property, which you wouldn't own in a sale like that, essentially. If Microsoft ended up buying Rocksteady, they don't own Batman. So basically what you're about to say here is the big hurdle is IP licensing.
Yeah, I would say that's the hurdle. Is like, do you buy those studios and then basically lose access to all of the games they're known for? Is it worth buying the studios and have them make all new things? Do you know what they'll even make? Do they have pitches ready to, be like, this is the game we want to make that's not based on Warner Brothers IP? It's a complicated deal. It's not like Bethesda, where it's like, Bethesda is an independent entity, or ZeniMax was. ZeniMax was a private company, and like everything just perfectly lined up for Xbox to come in and stuff like that. There was no one else involved. Like, all the IP was relatively neatly wrapped up, and Bethesda owned Doom completely after purchasing id, and they own like Fallout after winning that court case with Interplay and stuff like that. And that was all rapidly tied up with a nice, pretty pink bow on top of it. But when it comes to Batman, just taking Batman as an example, Warner Brothers owns part of Batman, or most of Batman, but then there's other aspects of it that are owned by other companies, and the IP is just all over the place. It's not something that it's kind of like how Disney owns the rights to most of Marvel, but then Sony owns the rights to specific characters, and it's just a mess. IP stuff is a mess, and Microsoft is they're very cautious about this stuff. I kind of get the impression that they're cautious about this stuff because Microsoft's a big $1 trillion company, and they are the perfect company to sue. If you're someone who wants to make a lot of money and you have a legitimate reason to, because Microsoft misused an IP that they don't fully own for some reason, because of some historical apocryphal, archaic sort of legal mumbo jumbo stuff from a million years ago. Someone will come after Microsoft and try and extort some money, and I think that's why we haven't seen MechAssault hit back on Pat, because Microsoft isn't sure if it has the rights to do that, you know? So they're very cautious about that stuff, and I think the IP, the legality surrounding the IP could hold it up and stuff like that. And then it's like, are those studios even worth buying without the IP? That kind of thing. So theoretically, I think they could get like something like, you know, NetherRealm, where the IP is potentially a little bit neater than something like Batman to just purchase up. But they're not going to get Batman. They're not going to get Lord of the Rings. They're not going to get, like, you know, a lot of that stuff. So, yeah, it's complicated. Maybe we'll see something come out of it. Maybe not. I don't know right now.
Well, so Raiden Blade says in chat, Jazz, without the IP, they're still great studios, so it's great get either way. So, like, I do see a lot of people talk about this, like, well, it doesn't matter about the IP licensing and ownership. You just buy the studios because then you can have them work on your games. But I think some of the IP stuff is simply, like, with Bethesda, you bought Bethesda, you own all of Bethesda, you immediately start making money on their past releases, right? Whereas if you buy, say they bought Warner Brothers games and now they own Rocksteady and all that stuff, like, you got to figure out how much Warner Brother gets, because Xbox isn't going to own the Batman IP. Like, that's owned by Warner Brothers. So some of that money is going to go back to Warner Brothers for the licensing. So you have to figure that out. So now you're not getting the full money. And Xbox is going to want to look at, like, okay, if we're spending this much money, tell us why Rocksteady hasn't made a game in 7 years. Why hasn't WB Montreal made a game in 9 years? Like, that is stuff that you'd want to figure out. Is there problems within the studios? Was it a problem with WB management? You know what I mean? Like, those are things that would have to be wrapped up. So I do think if licensing wasn't an issue, I think Xbox would totally, you know, be in the running for it. I don't know. I just kind of feel like the licensing is the big issue. And if they can, you know, I think Xbox is totally interested in Warner Brother games, you know, by the way. I think they totally are. But I think it's just the IP's the roadblock. So I don't know. It would be super cool if at E3 they're like, and you know, Phil's like, hey, welcome WB Games to Xbox, and or you know, we welcome NetherRealm, because like I think if you're looking at the studios, like NetherRealm is one that you have to target because they're a fighting game studio and Xbox needs fighters. So if like they're selling any of these studios individually, you need to go after NetherRealm and get into Mortal Kombat IP. And Phil's talked about, you know, his desire to make get more kid games. You know, you can buy Traveler's Tale, and yeah, you probably don't get the Lego license, but like you could make a Minecraft Lego game, right? On an IP that you own. And as much as I would
make
love
a Halo Lego game,
you could. So, I mean, there's things. So I do think Xbox is totally interested. It's just a matter of the IP, and maybe these studios with their like maybe Discovery wants to get out of gaming, and if they wanted to get out of gaming, maybe they're really in a hurry to sell. Either way, we'll have to wait and see on that.
Maybe.
Really quickly, Jez, the BIomutant stuff. 4K on Series X, 1080p on PS5. They had to say, hey, because of technical limitations, we can't do 4K on PS5. A lot of people were upset about it. A lot of people were I don't know why anybody attacks developers over the stuff. They're a team of 20. You know, Xbox does back compat way better than PlayStation. I mean, this isn't even a debate. You know, the way Xbox has done back compat is just a better implementation than PlayStation 5. That's not even up for discussion. I don't know. I just find it cringe when people attack developers over stuff. What do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, I agree. It sucks, but at the same time, it's sort of like this is to do with the way, you know, the consoles have been implemented when it comes to emulating the previous generation's games. You know, you could argue that THQ Nordic should have funded a native port. You know, maybe. Well,
there is a PS5 and Series X versions coming later as free upgrades, just not at launch.
Yeah, so Yeah, especially having that information kind of like undoes any reason to be mad, right? That just goes to show that Microsoft had a more sort of future-proofed operating system and future-proof development environment, and they had this stuff in mind when they made Back Compare, and that's the benefit of the Windows kernel, which all these APIs sit on or whatever. So yeah, it's just sort of silly to be mad about this stuff, especially if there's a free upgrade coming later. Um, you know,
I know people were
that's
people were
be mad at
just
Sony.
people were just upset about 1080p, like because it's like, oh, 1080p, but it was like Returnal was 1080p, and you were perfectly fine with Returnal being 1080p.
Returnal was 1080p.
1080p, 1080p upscaled to 1440p, and then checkerboarded to 4K. Yeah,
Hmm.
but like nobody really had issues with that, and now you have people issues with 1080p on BioMutant. I don't know. Like, I don't think it's right to attack developers. I kind of just I saw some of that on Twitter, and I was just like, man, you guys must have nothing to play if you're complaining about this stuff and you're attacking developers. On Twitter, like, go play a video game instead of playing Twitter all day. Essentially,
People are always just sort of mad about how it makes their team look. People
Mm.
like people get way too invested in some of this stuff. I think it's okay, and like we've said it before on the show, it's okay to be a fan. In fact, it's great to be a fan. We're all fans of gaming here, but it's not okay to be a fanboy of a corporation's platform that don't care about you. You don't have to go to bat for them and do their marketing for them. One thing that always makes me cringe is like whenever Xbox tweets something, you just get a load of fanboys in the replies, and they're just like, "Oh, Xbox sucks" and stuff like that. It's like, why are you like this? What is wrong with you? You know? Oh man. Imagine if gaming was just gaming and none of this extraneous bullshit was a thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, I think that's a good point to end the show. If you guys have any questions, make sure you put them in chat. Me and Jez will try to answer them. But thank you guys for being here on Saturday. We appreciate it. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the show. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. Make sure you follow me. Make sure you follow me and Jez on Twitter. For some interesting, spicy takes, mostly from Jez's side. I hardly ever tweet, so I won't clog up your timeline. So yeah, Jez, what do you think about Netflix wanting in on games? You think that's gonna go as good as Amazon and Google did?
Yeah, I tweeted that earlier today, didn't I? I don't know. I think it makes sense for a lot of the cloud oriented businesses to think about this stuff, especially like when it comes to Netflix, because Netflix doesn't have its own cloud infrastructure. They rent it from Amazon. So if I was Netflix, the next logical progression in my business would be cloud gaming, and Amazon offers that technology. Like the entire Netflix business is just licensing Amazon technology. They use Amazon's technology for video streaming. They use Amazon servers. So the next logical progression in that business model is we'll use Amazon Luna to stream video games. I just wonder, like, how's Netflix going to play that? Are they going to do like a Stranger Things game, make it exclusive to streaming? Are they going to do, make games based on some of their TV show IP? It could be good. It could work out, and it could be great. But we've also watched Stadia go down in flames, and Amazon's like attempts at making video games like that New World MMO, and
Yeah, that
just
locked
haven't
like
sort of
fast
panned out,
travel
man.
and stuff, like behind microtransactions or whatever it was I read, or Nintendo
Yeah,
locking fast travel behind Amiibos or Amiibos or whatever the hell it is. You know, if
Amiibo.
Sony or Xbox did that, they'd be crucified. But Nintendo can get away with whatever. They can get literally away with whatever they want.
Yeah, so like Sony or Microsoft will get crucified for doing that. But can you imagine if Sony or Microsoft, like for example, the Master Chief Collection or like an Uncharted collection, was arbitrarily removed from sale after a certain date? like how Nintendo did it with the Mario 3D All Stars or whatever it's called. They would be crucified, but Nintendo just get away with it. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. That's the power of nostalgia, man.
It is. Georgie has a question, Jez. He says, you guys are saying Starfield is late 2021, actually late 2022. But what's between Halo and Starfield? Another draw like the one we're in? I mean, we'll find out at E3. There's
that's
Arcane Austin's new game. Maybe Wolfenstein 3 comes out. Maybe Avowed comes out next year. Like, that's what E3 is for, George. So we only got a couple weeks to find out what essentially is coming the rest of this year, which will be Psychonauts 2 and Age of Empires 4 and Halo and Forza Horizon 5 with, I don't know if you saw, there was that toy leak that came out today. That toys are launching in September, so maybe Forza Horizon 5 comes out this year, and then Starfield might be end of 2022, and there might be a couple Bethesda games, some Game Pass stuff, and maybe something from Xbox. We'll have to wait and see, and we'll find out in a couple weeks. That's all says, should Xbox sell mind-blowing gameplay on Series S at E3 since it's next gen and easier to produce? I would imagine they'd want it to look the best it possibly can, so they'll use Series X or PC versions of stuff, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's always going to be the case.
Isylar says, how am I not getting notifications? Hey, it's YouTube, man. People have been telling me for this whole month that YouTube's not sending out notifications for my content or stuff. Like, it is what it is. That's why, follow me on Twitter. I'll usually tweet out when the podcast is live or when the videos go out. I know people subscribe and you hit that bell, but you also got to click it so you want all notifications from the channel so it emails you and stuff like that, so you're always aware. That's just what it is. I've gotten a lot of people telling me that they're not getting notifications anymore, but I can't really do anything about that. That's all YouTube, man. It sucks. Ozane says, tell Jez I will trade my entire living decks if he tells us the studio that is making Project Typhoon.
Man, I've almost got a living dex, man. You have to do better than that.
AK says, any news about Forza Horizon 5 2021? Well, there was the toy leak that came out. There's some of these toys that are releasing in September. And there's no number on the Forza Horizon. It just says Forza Horizon. So I don't know. And it's in the background of the pictures on the desert. So that maybe leads credence to the Mexico thing. So, I mean, I think we'll find out at E3 when it is. But if the toy leaks are anything to go by, it definitely seems like a Forza Horizon was planned for this fall. That's all says, will the PlayStation exclusive Starfield be a launch title for the Switch Pro? Lol. Marlisco says, do you think Xbox will ever have ultra-wide screen support? Like the console? You think the Series X will... Don't they have ultra-wide screen support, Jez?
I honestly am not sure about that. The problem is,
or is it game by game basis? Is it game by game basis? Some games support it, some games don't.
Yeah, it might be a game by game basis because games just generally expect a 16:9 aspect ratio. So you'd have black borders off the side. So the game would have to be coded to acknowledge other aspect ratios, It's like if you play an Overwatch, for example, on PC, there's it can do a bajillion million different kind of aspect ratios. Where if you play Overwatch on Xbox, I think it can only do 16:9. Depends on the game, I think. But it's kind of like the whole keyboard and mouse thing for Xbox. If Xbox has the capability, Microsoft's not doing a very good. They're not doing very good at championing that ability. I'm getting tired now. They're not doing a very good job of championing that ability. It's why I say Age of Empires should come to Xbox and it should force mouse and keyboard support. Because that way you advertise the fact that Xbox can do mouse and keyboard. Maybe more games do pick up mouse and keyboard APIs. And, Age of Empires is the obvious game to do it because I don't see a world where Age of Empires can work with a controller because that's a serious RTS. It's not like a simple, less, more simplistic RTS like Halo Wars was. Age of Empires is hardcore, yo.
Hardcore. Punk Soul says, Rand and Jez, fantastic show as always, gentlemen. Appreciate you both. We appreciate you, Pong. Let's see here. Adam wants to know if I'll play Breath of the Wild. Maybe one day. Raiden Blaze says, I miss the old days of Sega versus Nintendo, a real gentleman's console war. Third party were never mercenaries back then. Let's see here. What else? George says, if I was Xbox, I'll be gunning for Sega Square Enix. It's a loss for Xbox with Final Fantasy. Yeah, it sucks that Final Fantasy not coming to the platform, but, you know, I don't know if like Phil can talk to Square Enix about that, but, you know, Square's going to do what's best for them, and they think what's best for them is having those games exclusive to the PlayStation platform. So, Pointless View says, hey, have you guys seen the Forza Horizon 5 map leaks? I have not. Have you, Jez? Seen any map leaks for Forza Horizon 5? Nope. If you have the map leaks, DM Jez, and he'll look into the legitimacy of it. XD says, are you going to play Nocturne and talk about it? Nocturne. Have you,
I don't know that game.
No, I haven't. No, I don't know that game. Yeah, so I think that's all the questions. So, you know what? Yeah, that's going to be the end of the show, guys. We appreciate you being here on the Saturday. A lot of 1,300 people were here, which is always great to see. Thanks for all the super chats and the new channel members. The support's always incredible. When we will be back here next week, hopefully talking about a bunch of new stuff. You never know what's going to be announced or any news that drops regarding the gaming industry. So, got anything to say before we get out here, Jez? You got any new articles you're planning? Any Xbox fighting dirty style exclusives over at Windows Central?
Nah. Standard week next week, I think.
Standard week.
But I am on Windows Central's gaming YouTube channel on Windows Central Gaming. I am premiering my Ascent gameplay preview on video tomorrow. So if you drop a subscription there, you can check out some Ascent gameplay.
Paul says, the best podcast bar none. Really enjoy tuning in. Thank you, Paul. We got a question from Gunstar. I guess I missed his. I didn't see it when I was scrolling. Do you think the chip shortage and COVID will work in Xbox's favor? Will all the tides converge and a wave of consoles' amazing first-party games hit all at once? What do you think about that, Jez?
I think that's a good point, and I think it could work in Xbox's favor because the chip shortage is basically stopping Sony from, completely dominating right now. So it's giving Xbox an opportunity to, bide its time and really bring out the heavy hitters and, polish everything up really well. And, come back strong when they've actually got stock. If Starfield is exclusive like we expect and it does have the gameplay to match the hype, that's a pretty good way to sell consoles, presumably. So hopefully when that game does drop, we're sort of in a position where the semiconductor shortage isn't, still ongoing. Intel's building a big semiconductor factory in America right now. I think they're investing an absurd amount of money, and it's like billions of dollars. So I don't know. It's I think that's a good point. I think it could work out in Xbox's favor, but we'll just have to wait and see how all that stuff plays out.
Petron says Dolby Vision is live. I believe that is. I think that went live to insiders last week. Xbox Junkie, what's up, brother? He says, are there any in-person events coming around E3? Don't think so. Maybe next year we'll see in-person stuff for E3. But from what I understand, there's no in-person events for E3 this year.
No, zilch.
It's all digital. Yeah. Shout out to Swan931 who says, best Xbox podcast like Jez. I rename my Twitter based on what I'm playing. In this case, Swan Effect 2 is the best Mass Effect. Yes, we all agree. It is the best. And with that, we're out of here, guys. Have a great week, and we'll be back hopefully on Friday. Always look on for Twitter to see if the show is going to be Friday or Saturday. So